It's 2 a.m. somewhere in the Serengeti. A gazelle lies curled in the grass, eyes shut, breathing slow. 20 feet away, a lioness pads silently through the dark. She sees it. She smells it. She could reach it in 4 strides. She doesn't move. What if the safest place on Earth is right next to the thing that wants to kill you? What if millions of years of evolution built a rule so strange that even apex predators obey it without knowing why? What if the reason you sleep peacefully tonight has nothing to do with your locked door, and everything to do with a silence written into the DNA of every hunter on the planet? Because here's the mystery. Predators are built to kill. Sharp senses, explosive speed, jaws made for exactly this moment. And yet, again and again, across continents and species, they let sleeping prey sleep. Why would a killer ignore its easiest kill? In 1966, a team of researchers tracking African lions noticed something they couldn't explain. Lions would walk past resting herds, sometimes within arm's reach, and simply continue on. The kills almost always happened during movement. A chase, a stumble, a moment of activity. Stillness seemed to make the prey disappear. At first, scientists assumed it was about visibility. Maybe lions just couldn't see a motionless animal in tall grass. But then camera traps told a different story. Lions weren't failing to notice sleeping prey. They were noticing it and walking away anyway. Here's where it gets strange. To understand why, researchers turned to the eyes of the predators themselves. Big cats, wolves, and many hunting birds share a visual system finely tuned to one thing above all else: motion. Their retinas are packed with cells that fire the instant something twitches, flees, or flinches. It's called the visual streak, and it's the reason a cheetah can lock onto a bolting impala from 300 meters away. But that same system has a blind spot, in a sense that isn't literal. A motionless body doesn't just fail to attract attention, it fails to register as prey at all. The predator's brain, wired over millions of years to chase movement, effectively stops treating a sleeping animal as something alive. Stillness isn't just camouflage. It's a kind of invisibility built into the hunter's own mind. Except that can't be the whole story, because predators have noses too, and smell doesn't require movement. Now something even stranger happens. In the 1970s, biologists studying wolf packs in Minnesota documented something that unsettled even seasoned field researchers. Wolves would approach sleeping deer, circle them, sniff the air inches from their bodies, and turn away without striking. The leading explanation reaches back to energy economics. A hunt is a gamble. Every chase burns calories that might not be repaid. A sudden strike on a sleeping animal sounds efficient, but it isn't. A startled animal that wakes mid-attack becomes a thrashing, adrenaline-fueled threat, capable of injuring or even killing a predator with a single kick or gore. Wolves have died this way. Lions have died this way. So predators evolved a preference most people never consider. They don't hunt for the kill. They hunt for the chase that reveals weakness. A sleeping animal gives away nothing. No limp, no lagging stride, no sign of who's old, sick, or slow. To a predator's calculating instinct, an unconscious body is a mystery it can't afford to gamble on. But if that's true, if predators are simply avoiding risk, then why do they sometimes attack prey that's merely resting, awake, unaware? This is where everything changes. In 2011, a study published on African wild dogs turned the story upside down. Researchers found that wild dogs, unlike lions, would occasionally target resting animals, but only when hunting in coordinated packs, using the moment of stillness as an opportunity for ambush, not a moment to ignore. The difference wasn't the prey's state, it was the predator's social structure. Solitary hunters like leopards, who cannot afford an injury they'll recover from alone, avoid deep risk encounters with unknown, motionless targets. Pack hunters, who share both the risk and the reward, sometimes take that gamble together. Suddenly, the question wasn't, why don't predators attack sleeping prey? It was, which predators can afford to? Evolution, it turns out, doesn't write one rule. It writes 1,000 quiet negotiations between hunger and survival. But the story gets even more counterintuitive when you look at insects. In the 1980s, entomologists studying orb-weaving spiders noticed something odd about how they treated trapped, motionless prey versus struggling prey. A moth that stopped moving in the web, playing dead essentially, was sometimes left uneaten for hours, even when the spider was hungry and the moth was inches from its mouth. Why would a creature with almost no brain to speak of follow the same stillness equals safety logic as a lion? The answer researchers arrived at wasn't intelligence. It was instinct sculpted by an entirely different pressure. Many moths that play dead are toxic or unpalatable, and spiders that learned across evolutionary time, not individual memory, to hesitate on motionless prey survived more often than spiders that struck immediately, which means stillness doesn't just hide an animal from a predator's eyes. In some cases, across some species, stillness has become a signal, a symbol almost for proceed with caution, etched into nervous systems that never had a single conscious thought about it. If a spider can be fooled by silence, what does that say about the nature of instinct itself? There's a deeper layer here, one that scientists studying sleep evolution have circled for decades. If sleep is truly this dangerous, a state of total sensory shutdown in a world full of teeth, why did it evolve at all? Why didn't natural selection simply eliminate it, favor animals that never fully powered down? Some researchers, including sleep scientist Jerome Siegel at UCLA, have proposed an answer that reframes the entire mystery. Sleep isn't a vulnerability evolution failed to fix. It's a vulnerability evolution decided was worth the price because the brain and body cannot function, cannot repair, cannot learn without it. Even more strangely, Siegel's comparative research across dozens of mammal species found that the animals under the greatest predation pressure don't sleep less out of fear. They sleep in fragments, seconds and minutes at a time, hundreds of times a day, trading depth of sleep for frequency of vigilance. A giraffe, one of the most exposed animals on the savanna, sleeps as little as 30 minutes a day, broken into pieces so brief they barely register as rest at all. Which means every sleeping creature on Earth is making an unspoken bet, every single night, or every single fragment of a night, that the silence will hold, that stillness will read as absence, that the ancient contract between predator and prey, don't move, don't be found, will not be broken tonight, and for millions of years across nearly every predator-prey relationship studied, it mostly has. But here's a twist almost no one talks about. This isn't only prey protecting themselves from predators. In a strange mirror, some predators use the exact same trick on each other. Field biologists studying spotted hyenas and lions, two species that fiercely compete over the same kills, have documented hyenas lying motionless near resting lion prides, sometimes for over an hour, waiting for a moment of vulnerability without triggering a defensive response. The stillness that protects a gazelle from a lion also, in a different context, protects a hyena from a lion's aggression. Stillness, it turns out, isn't just a prey strategy. It's one of the oldest negotiating tools in the animal kingdom, a universal, wordless signal that says, I am not a threat, so do not treat me as one, which raises an unsettling question. How much of animal survival isn't about strength, speed, or teeth at all, but about the ability to convincingly disappear while still being right there? Now scale this up, beyond individual animals, beyond single species, to an entire evolutionary strategy that shaped the history of life on Earth. Paleontologists studying the fossil record have found evidence that as predator sophistication increased over hundreds of millions of years, sharper senses, faster limbs, better night vision, prey species didn't just evolve to run faster. Many evolved elaborate freeze responses instead. Possums, certain snakes, ground-nesting birds, even some primates, all independently arriving at the same solution across millions of years of separate evolutionary paths. Movement invites death. Stillness negotiates for life. It's one of the rare survival strategies that evolved not once, but dozens of times, in dozens of unrelated lineages, a signal that this isn't a coincidence. It's a fundamental law of predator-prey physics, as consistent and inevitable as gravity, but humans complicate this story in a way no other species does. We are the only prey animal on Earth that chose deliberately to sleep in groups behind walls near fire. Not because instinct demanded it, but because we understood the mystery of vulnerability. And instead of accepting the gamble, we tried to eliminate it altogether. Anthropologists studying early hearths in South Africa's border cave believe controlled fire may have done exactly this, turned the night from a predator's opportunity into a boundary predators wouldn't cross. We didn't just adapt to the rule, we rewrote it. And yet, even now, in locked houses on quiet streets, something ancient still stirs in a sleeping brain. The reason you sometimes wake at the smallest sound? A creak, a shift in air, a footstep in another room, while sleeping through the roar of traffic outside isn't random. It's the same unresolved instinct that once kept a gazelle alive one more night. Total surrender, except for the one sense still standing guard. Researchers call this phenomenon the first night effect, a measurable state where one half of the human brain stays measurably more alert than the other during sleep in an unfamiliar place. Almost as if some ancient sentinel inside us refuses to fully stand down, no matter how many walls we build. We built fire. We built cities. We built locks of steel and reinforced concrete. And somewhere inside every one of us, a piece of the savannah never got the message that it was safe to fully let go. So maybe the real question was never why predators spare the sleeping. Maybe it's why every living thing that sleeps has to trust every single night in a silence it cannot verify. A truce it never signed, with a world that never promised to keep it. Maybe it's why a lion, a wolf, a spider, and a human, separated by hundreds of millions of years of evolution, all arrived independently at the same fragile agreement. That stillness deserves a moment's hesitation. That vulnerability deserves, for reasons no single species can fully explain, a strange, unearned mercy. And maybe that's the strangest inheritance evolution ever left us. Not the fear that keeps us awake, but the trust that lets us close our eyes at all,